Next segment we have coming up is Santa Ana Dragstrip, Orange County. The Santa Ana Dragstrip opened in July of 1950. They closed down in the latter part of 1959. Nobody is really sure about the exact closing date. I've even asked Hart about that. When they first opened up at Santa Ana, the first fellas out were fellas from the dry lakes. Hart wasn't too sure how the quarter mile was going to go, so he brought some of the experienced racers out, like Bobby Meeks, Fran Hernandez, Lou Baney, and they tried out the drag strip just to see how the quarter mile stuff would go. At first they didn't like it. They thought, well, a quarter mile you really can't get the speed up, but it wasn't too long before they realized that with a little gear change they could get some pretty good speeds up. Now some of these dragsters here, early in these years, this is before the slingshot driver come up. This was back when all they did really was just a roadster with the body taken off. Notice the nice safety factor we have with the logs along the side, and they're very short, very small bleachers, and people used to sit on the logs over there and watch the cars go by, and hopefully nobody ever spun against them. Our timing tower was nothing but a hearse with a little stand built on top of it. It held all equipment. This is C.J. Hart climbing out of the little booth. I sat in this booth up there for many years doing the announcing out there. Another fellow and I, we traded off early in the years, named Paul Phillips. We kind of traded off back and forth. If I had to go somewhere, well, Paul would relieve me. Notice the enthusiastic look on the fella as he receives his trophy. As you watch these cars, this Don Parkey right here is signing the cars up. Don was out there from just about year one, was the sign-up man. And the gentleman in this Merc you'd probably die to have right now is named Palmer Hamlin. He did the starting out there. You notice a rolling start. They had a slight hill right above the quarter mile. The first cars that came out were mostly street racers. So see the rolling start, and there's the ET light down a little bit further. The idea was that the guys came out, ran their street machine, and they didn't have to start from a standing start, because a lot of them tried that just for the fun of it, and they wound up by having to be towed home with blown transmissions and blown rear end. This is before they really got the idea of how to build a car to stand the rigors of a standing start. So they ran a start. And also, there's no comment about the guy crossed over the line. Hey, as long as you got down there first. Sometimes we ran 3 and 4 cars out there. It got a little bit hairy once in a while. My father-in-law, George Hendricks, he worked in the finish line. He would say the Chevy won. I'd say, which one? He said, Don, they were all Chevys. Just pick one. Notice the sleek lines of this dragster right here. Here's another one. This was a modern car back then. Little generator right here supplied all of our power. TJ loading some fuel up into it. Every so often to run out, I'd be talking about something and I'd go off the air, which sometimes they were thankful I was off the air. And Hart had to come over and load it up again. This rear engine car right here run by Ollie Morris. Ollie ran 144 and a quarter with this car with a flathead. He ran the same car at Bonneville with a Chrysler and went 198 miles an hour. This is a nice shot of the starting area, looking down the quarter mile. Now, Santa Ana had a slight dog leg to the right, about 1/8 of a mile past the finish line. You had about another quarter mile of asphalt, and then you had dirt. You're going to see a good example of the dirt a little later. Obviously, we're at the finish line right now. If you get a chance to look across the drag strip at the airport, that's the Orange County Airport, which is now the John Wayne International Airport. This drag strip right now is probably underneath one of the main runways at John Wayne International Airport. That'll give you some idea where it was located. And you'll see the dirt. It looks like a lot of asphalt, but it won't be too long. You'll get a good shot of the dirt in the shutoff area. Here's C.J. Hart. We're back on the line now. He's going to wave a few cars off. Again, no Christmas trees, no reaction timer, just a starter out there, waving them off. You have maybe 2 or 3 jump starts, and the starter would lose his patience. And here's Ernie Porter. He decided to go ahead. Let me have a hand at starting him once in a while. He worked for a Ford agency. Come on, duck. Attaboy. They missed you. Chevy ran by Tom Ritchie. Tom had one of the best running Chevys out there. He got protested a lot, but every time he tore him down, they couldn't find anything wrong with his car. And he'd go home with a trophy in the back seat and $25 protest money in his pocket. Sometimes it would be so hazy out there or smoggy, you couldn't see clear down to the finish line. Oh, there's one jump start. I think that was Hayden Profit in the Chevy. Come on, Hayden. And we can have one more. One more. That's the second one. You don't do that nowadays. Oh, look at this modern dragster. Notice the white wall tires on it? Now, there are some cars you'd like to have. Any of these cars in the starting area. An old Buick, Devon sports car, 44 convertible, and on and on. 34 coupe. Like this is Calvin Rice coming by in his dragster. Yeah, this car right here won the national championship in 1955. Calvin Rice, Melvin Dog, Kenny Howard, they all worked on that car. Mickey Thompson Streamliner. Yeah, the streamlining with cardboard. Had an Ardun engine in it. There's a view of the quick change rear end in it. 75 cents drag races. That's all it costs. And one up to $1. I think that most of it they're charging was about $1.50 when the drag strip closed down in 1959. You notice that none of these cars have the mile-wide tires they run now. By now, I'm referring to this was done in the filming. I had the voiceover done in '95. So you know what I mean when I talk about the mile-wide tires. The first few years out there, sickles were the dominating factor out there. The cars took a while for the cars to get where they could beat a sickle. If you go back in some of the record books, you see sickle winner with the top eliminator about 9 times out of 10. Sometimes if it gets so hazy down there, you couldn't see the finish line. We had to have somebody down there that would tell us when it was clear. Here's the Bean Bandits. Unfortunately, I chopped Joaquin's head off here. You'll get a better shot of him later. Joaquin Arnett, they were trying to get a Studebaker engine to go. And they didn't have much luck with it. Harold Dawson, 666. Harold ran a flathead engine in this car. In the 56 NHRA Nationals, Harold was runner-up to the national championship in this car to Melvin Heath. He came within one race of winning the national championship. Number 99, car run by Frank Cano. He had a GMC engine in that with a Wayne head on it. Harold in the coupe had a flathead engine in it. A lot of fellas didn't know that he was running nitric oxide back in the early 50s. Here's the Calvin Rice car with the blown Chrysler in it. Joe Reese was telling me here the other day. In fact, Joe Reese still has a shop in Cherry over in Cherry Avenue in Long Beach. Joe was telling me that they hooked up a pressure tank in the cockpit of that yellow coupe and ran nitric oxide with a bang valve. This is a good shot of Calvin's car, Melvin Dodd's car with the Chrysler engine in it. Now, you're going to get a shot of the seat area. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't like the idea of sitting over the rear end like that. Why? Well, if you're on a run and that rear end spins, they could lift you out of the car at the other end and you would have a very high-pitched voice. And I don't think I have to go into details about that. I think you'll know what I mean. And Dad, if your kids or little girl is asking you, what does he mean, Dad, by have a high-pitched voice? You're going to have to tell them that a little later when they're old enough to understand. But a couple of cars have spun rear ends, and it didn't do the driver too much good. This car was the first car, the one you just saw, was to turn over 150. Here we have Lefty Motorsbaugh on the right with the twin Chevy, and that's another very good shot of Jack Crispin on the left in the Sidewinder. It's getting pretty. There's a car right here called a Slice of Pie. It's got a side-mounted flathead engine. The rear wheels turn constantly. What he has, he starts the car up. The rear wheels are constantly turning. He raises the lever, raises the rear wheels, which are still running, off of the ground. All this time, while they're pushing the car back, the rear wheels are spinning. He lines the car up. When he gets ready to go, he nudges the lever, the rear wheels drop down to the pavement, and he's gone. This car won a lot of races at some of the Orange County and LA area tracks, but he flipped that car in Santa Ana one year. Car's run by Creighton Hunter, and he almost killed him. He was lucky to come out of it. He was on coma for about 4 or 5 weeks. This is Mickey Thompson trying to get his Ardun going in the Ardun dragster of his. Never to get it to clear out. That's a good shot of the finish area. Here you can see way down at the other end, but it was very common for the fog to come in early morning. Now here's the Calvin Rice car, Melvin Dodd car, with the flathead in it. This is the one they won the championship with. Later on, earlier, this car kind of bounces back and forth. They also ran a Chrysler engine in it. Calvin was a master on the line. Back in those days, you could allow a few jump starts. Calvin would get his competition so rattled with jacking back and forth that his competition really didn't know what was going on. Burl Wilson there was pushing the car back. Burl built the engine for that car and later sold it to Melvin Dowd, and they ran it in the car. I think it was a 3/8 by 3/8 flathead engine. This is one of the cars that won 144. Pretty good speed with a flathead engine. You're not talking about big 5,000 horsepower engines. You're talking about flathead engines. Here goes Harold Dawson in his nitric oxide burning coupe. The only time they ran the nitric oxide in the car if Harold was behind, which really wasn't very often. There went the Bean Bandit flashing by in the yellow. Now this is Vic Smaldino, the giant killer I used to like to call him. Four-banger, he turned over 130 with that car with the four-banger engine. Remember this car? You saw that at El Mirage Dry Lake. Here's Jack Ewell. He also was a dry laker turning drag racer. Two flathead engines with a four-wheel drive. I don't remember who ran the car and how fast he ran, but it's a rather unique car. He had a good idea just playing with it. They were both wheel driving. Here we're going to have a few jump starts. Now, that's Palmer Hamlin say, okay, come on now, guys. Let's try it again. Ham would put up with about 2 starts on a jump. Now, this is filmed in slow motion. Here's a very fast car. Ed Lisinski and Son injected. This is one of the fastest injected Chrysler cars out there. They turned 149 with that car, but it scared you to watch it run. That was Ollie Morris just went through with the rear engine white car with the Chevy engine in it. You get an idea. Now here come 3 cars. We run 4 once in a while. George would say, the Chevy one, like I said earlier, come on, Don, no more than 1 car, or 2 cars at a time. Got a GMT engine in there. Here's Juaquin Arnett shutting off, going into the dirt. Now you're going to get some good shots of the dirt. After about a quarter mile of shut-off area, it was nothing but dirt, dirt, dirt. Here's Juaquin Arnett, Beanbag. They won a lot of races out there. Over a period of time, they won over 360 races at various tracks in their career, drag racing career. Also, when you shut off, you had to drop off a little track. Here's Leroy Newmeyer. He's one of the El Mirage racers that came out, tried the drag races and liked it. Clark Cagle in the Roadster. Clark handled the fuel truck at Santa Ana. Set up a fuel truck and sold nitro and alcohol to the cars running out there. If you forgot about that drop-off and went off that drop-off about 100 miles an hour, it'd rattle your teeth. So they always suggested that before you go bonsai out down the drag strip, you better check it out a little bit. Car right here run by Ball Sense. Look at the roll bar. Not even up to his shoulders. That's the roll bar. If you rolled it, the body would survive, but well, how about the head? You're going to get some shots right here. The car's coming into the finish area in the dirt. Our Kristen's going to come blasting by in a couple of minutes here, well over 100 miles an hour. I think that was Clark Cagle went by in the Roadster. And the next car up, I believe, was Art Kristen in the number 25 car. Here we come. He's going over 100 miles an hour when he goes by here. Woo. And there he is after he got straightened out and came back. Now, Santa Ana didn't have any lights so they could run night drag racing, so if it started to get real dark and we were behind on our program, we would ask the people parked along the edge turn their headlights on so we could finish racing. So it wasn't, you're going to get a little view here later. And right now, people have their headlights on so we can finish it out here. Ollie Morrison, the Smoking White Owl, the number 606, you can go back and look at see what car I'm talking about. Ollie experimented running pure oxygen along with mixing it into the fuel. But after he got tired of blowing so many engines up, I guess Ollie was telling me he gave up on it. So there's a lot of experimenting back in the old days on different ways to make your car go fast. And Harold Dawson, he had the nitric oxide. All he had was a bang valve. You bang it, and either the engine either blew or it went like heck. One of his competitors asked him if he had an overdrive in it because it took off so fast. Here's an old sprint car decided to go ahead and come out and try the Santa Ana drag strip.